to the RunRX Podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running. Welcome back to the RunRX Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Valerie, I want to talk to you today about something that I've noticed in our membership and in how we teach running, that we teach running the same way that you teach me strength. Is that a good observation? Is that correct? And how do we do that? If I'm somebody that I understand strength training, or I understand go to my boot camp, how does that relate to my running? Like, how are they similar?
It's a great question. So let's say it's your first day of, let's use a strength exercise. So it's the first day of your boot camp class. You go in, or whatever strength you're going to do, and the coach says, "Hey guys, everyone's going to do 10 push-ups." Mm-hmm. And you walk in and you're like, "Hi, coach. I cannot do 10 push-ups.
Right.
I cannot do 1 push-up." Mm-hmm. So first, I hope the coach would show us. Here's how Valerie would do it. I would first demonstrate the push-up of how I would set the standard. Here is what a push-up looks like. So we're all on the same page. So like the Valerie standard, for example, is to start the push-up on the ground so that you can actually push up. Whereas a lot of people start like in a plank position, which is the top of the push-up, right? So I would first demonstrate the standard. Here we start on the ground, and then I would push up. And then the second thing I would say is, if you are unable to push up, we are first going to all start with what's called a belly rock, which is just letting people feel, it's a core exercise. Anyway, You could definitely watch the demo. We have it on YouTube, but I would take you through, and then here's how you add body weight into the ground with your hands and your feet. We do a kick, guys. I'll talk about that in just for a second. We do a hamstring kick. We press with our hands, and we push into the ground to unweigh our body, so our body will lift up, and we lead the lift with our center of our body, with our core, if you will. And what's amazing is you start moving with how you're supposed to move, one, because why would you resist on the way down when gravity is your friend? So what I teach you is like, let your body drop with gravity, and then you kick and you press into the ground, and you press up, you push up. And all of a sudden the push-up becomes, that's what a push-up is. And a lot of women, I have so many women that come in to RunRX, guys, and they cannot do a push-up. And their coach will say, well, just do it on your knees. Well, that's not going to help me, because the challenge then, I'm not doing the push-up anymore. And most of the women have the challenges in the upper body strength. So you're telling me I can't, basically you're taking my legs out, and it just puts a little bit of stress on the lower back. What happens when you start to use the whole body, your feet and your hands, and you press and you unweigh your body and you use your hips and your core, you're learning to work with your whole body as a unit.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That was the one thing I learned, that a push-up really, when you do it the way you have shown me, is I'm using my arms, but what's really activated and causing the movement is the body as a unit in the core. And that was really profound, because I think that's what happens. You say push up, I'm going to go down, I'm going to do it all with my arms and my shoulders, and that's how I pull my shoulder out, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I just cringe. I see women start at the top of a push up, and they try to drop, and they don't have the strength, and they're like, their shoulders are behind their ears. Anyway, my point is that I make sure you're doing it correctly first. If you cannot do 1 push-up, why would I have you do 10? See what I mean?
Right.
And then let's all make sure we're on the same page. Even if you can do 100, let me see your movement. Let's make sure you're doing a full range of motion. So if you're on the other end where you're like, hey man, I can knock out 10 to 50, great. Let's look at, are you holding your line? Are you staying connected? You see what I mean? So it doesn't, so this is the fun part. Whether it's, I've never done a push-up, or, hey, I've done 1,000 push-ups, then everyone can still improve, and everyone has a standard to improve to. And so it's a lot of fun. So, okay, I can't do a push-up. Can you hold a plank? Can you do a shoulder tap? So we start drills to help you get better at the push-up. So guys, it's the same thing with running. Whether you've been running for 30 years, whether you've never run ever, we all have to start with what's the standard of running. And it starts with standing in the running pose. So it's neat because you start with the pose. And so then just standing in the pose, we can talk about like, maybe you need to work on balance a little bit more. Maybe you have, maybe you need to do more foot strength. Maybe it's hard for you to bend your knees. We can start to see what's limiting your ability just to stand in your pose. Then we all learn the action of pulling. And then you can say, okay, while I'm doing this action of pulling, I realize I'm really I've not really been using my hamstring. So we start to introduce the movement, how it should feel, step by step. That's what the drills are about. And then you're developing skill, strength, and by the way, cardio, because the drills are really challenging, but it's to help you feel what the correct movement should feel like, and then make sure you're doing it correctly.
Okay, so really when we teach running in the RunRX method, when you come into the membership, we really are going to break it down to see, first off, is everybody working at the same standard of movement? Where are you in that standard of movement? And then we kind of take you to sort of square one. Let's check your pose. Let's see how you're falling, and let's work on your pull, right? We break it down for a short period of time to make sure you understand the process and the movement. And then if you're not able to hold the pose, or you've got some weakness or some stiffness or something going on in your shoulders or your back or your knees, we modify the drills to accommodate you where you are. Is that correct?
Yes. Not only do we modify, it's not even accommodating, it's helping you start where you are and get to where you want to be. And it's funny because someone said that the other day. Guys, a lot of times we put silly stuff on Instagram because it's Instagram. And like, I have little silly things I can do. Like that you have to remember, is that really going to help me run? Because the foundation of running, honestly, is a ball of foot hop. So from the ball of foot hop, though, you can do, oh my gosh, ball of foot hops. You can do jacks, you can do cross countries, you can do skips, you can do jump rope, you can do box jumps, you see what I mean? So you can get to, wow, go. We've got so many places to go, but everyone should start at the very beginning and then go through the journey in their own, as they can, have fun with progressing. However, I need people to know that like we all have to start somewhere. And so the more you start thinking, every time I practice, I'm going to get better from where I am right now. I mean, to me, that's right. And so with strength, it's the same thing. Like when someone's learning, it's like, I had a woman, it's not funny. It's funny because she's such a sweet lady, but she said to me, since I cannot do push-ups, maybe I just shouldn't do them. And I was like, that's no, that's not the answer. Because the answer is, if you cannot do a push-up, let's look at why you cannot do the push-up. Is it the movement you're trying to do? Is it you simply, where is the strength lacking? Do you need more hip strength? Let's do some hip strength exercises. Guys, it's the same with running. It's like, if you're really having struggles with your running, I want to get started running. So I want you guys to understand that when we talk about strength, and this is important, we talk about strength, body awareness, the ability to hold your own body weight. That's what running's all about. It's transferring your own body weight. So you got to start with standing, like you said, standing in pose. If I can't stand there, my balance isn't great, stand next to a wall. We've got band exercises to help you offset. If you're injured, most of our runners come in injured. So we're in a constant state of modification to make sure it goes both ways, whether you're injured or it's day one, or guys on the other end, you've been running forever. You're just trying to get to that next little, bit. We all have to do our drills to gain that strength.
Well, and let me just close it out by saying there are so many exercises that I didn't realize I had preconceived biases and stopping on. Things like, I hate jump rope. I've said that to you before. I hate jump roping. I can't do push-ups. I hated what was it? what is the exercise where the ab exercise where you're doing shoulder, you know what I'm talking about, where everybody grabs their neck.
Bicycles.
Bicycles. Yes, that's the one I always hated because I would pull on my neck and I couldn't breathe. So I'd pull on my neck and I couldn't breathe. Valerie taught me, no, put your neck, nobody rides a bicycle that way, Caroline, put your head on the ground. And I, at the time, had a small group of runners that I had talked to. It was before I started coaching with Valerie. And I showed them the same thing. And they all were like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Same with push-ups. I can't do push-ups,
And just think
Valerie.
about it. They've all been sitting around doing those exercises without feeling their core. Like they're literally like, my neck hurts. Or people do push-ups and like, my shoulder hurts. Well, guys, it's the same if you go running and your knee hurts. There's something wrong in the way you're doing the movement. Nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And I think that's the challenge, because they're like, I must be doing it wrong. It must be me. And they don't want to speak up. Most guys, I'm telling you, when people come into the membership sometimes and they'll say things like, I've had this plantar pain for 3 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they've been doing exercises. So you realize it's not the exercising, it's how I do the exercise.
Exactly. And that's what I want you guys to realize is that, and realize that have you just taken something for granted, like I hate jump rope or I can't do that, without really looking at what is the movement you're doing and what is the correct standard of movement. And that's how I would hope that you, if you do decide to look at our membership, that you come in with that awareness that, okay, I'm going to learn it from scratch. I know I've been running for 30 years or 20 years, or I've done 6 marathons or whatever the case may be. I'm going to come in with a coachability and an awareness that I'm going to learn where I am in the process, in the path, and I'm going to try to learn something new.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX Podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.